Hey, transformational prevention again. Oh my, hey, hey. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose, you want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose, you want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. But we are stuck to accept you, take my hand and know me better. Hey, know me better, love me better. Hey, treat me better, love me better. It's the transformational parenting show with Olori.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the program Transformational Parenting Show with Olori. Today's episode promises to be very heartwarming. We're going to be exploring a topic that carries the wisdom of generations, and I'm talking about the role of grandparents in child upbringing. So we're going to dive into this invaluable conversation and look at the contributions that grandparents make to family dynamics and the unique intergenerational connections that shapes, of course, our children's life. Join me on the program today to give insights, and I mean deep insight into this crucial aspect of family life is no other one than, I'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere.
Hey, transformational prevention again. Oh my, hey. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose, you want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose, you want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. But we are stuck to accept you, take my hand and know me better. Hey, know me better, love me better. Hey, treat me better, love me better. It's the transformational parenting show with Olori.
All right, welcome back. It's time to meet my guests. We'll be talking about the role of grandparents in the life of a child and, of course, the upbringing of a child. My guest today is Pastor.REGINA OMO-AGEGE, a retired director with the Independent National Electoral Commission, the CEO of Jero Bakery and Confectionaries Limited, and of course, she serves currently as the Executive Director of Women Education, Advocacy and Development Initiative, WEDI. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Muta.
Thank you, Ma. So let's dive straight into the conversation for today. So in what ways do grandparents contribute to the upbringing of children?
Okay. Grandparents and children are very important people in society. One is a grandparent, the other is a child who is born by somebody's child. And you know that when women go into marriages, they pray a particular prayer that they want to see their children's children. So the thing is that because of that prayer, you want to see that your children's children are either better than your own child or at best conform with normal standards of a society. And today, society is decaying. So to answer your question straight, I think grandparents have a crucial role to play in the upbringing of our grandchildren.
I love what you said, and of course that's the prayer, grandchildren, that's the desire. I think even to the fourth generation, I think that's what the scripture really talked about. So what are specific benefits and advantages that these grandchildren stand to gain for having such a close relationship with their grandparents?
Specifically, moral upbringing, good values, the fear of God, and being a better person in society. You have to realize that there is a generational gap between the mother herself, the grandmother, and the grandchild. So, if you look into these generations, the moral values are more with those they say we are giving birth, the burning generation, The millennium generation do not carry such values with them. Their values changed over time. You know, they were the first to have access to internet. So they have access to a lot of information, which rather than make them, damage them. So the real values are still with the grandparents who can impact it on the grandchildren. So these grandchildren stand to gain a lot by getting close to their grandparents. But the mothers in most cases won't agree because they have not chosen a lifestyle which they think is very exciting. Specifically the Western lifestyle. I'm not trying to say that the Western lifestyle is bad. There are so many things to give to the West. But when it comes to our traditional values as Africans, with all due respect, I think we should keep them. They are good. They are godly. And if you look at the world today, the world is getting churchy and not getting godly. That's where we are. So that is why the role of the grandmother is very crucial. Because the grandmothers mostly will not go churchy. They remain godly. They remain the respectful children that their parents brought up. So it is key to know this, and it's very good for the grandchild.
Now, a lot of the generations pass. You know, if you listen to very great men and women when they speak, you keep hearing, "I was raised by my grandparents." So I'm sure they play a key role. But you just mentioned something now that is quite important, and that is, should I use the word modern parenting?
Modern parenting.
Which has really given a lot of that have changed the dynamics, as you're mentioning, that this is what it should be. Because the advantage of the grandchild is having generational wisdom, if I should call it like that, you know, impacted. But we have these issues that grandparents have to contend with parenting in the modern times. How do we navigate this?
Okay, now, the foundation of what you've just said is has to do with identity. Modern parents suffer from serious identity crisis. If you are a traditionalist, you raise up your child according to the tradition. If you are a Muslim, you raise your children according to Muslim religion. And if you are a Christian, you raise your children according to the Christian religion. There is a crisis in the world today, especially with the Christian mothers. They jettison the real values of the scriptures and want to go fully blown with the Western lifestyle. I say it every time to anybody that cares to listen to me. Most of our Southern languages are going into extinction because we have modern people parenting their children wanting to speak only English. Most of our religious values are no longer there. With all due respect, when you are walking on the streets, you see two girls dress, you can easily identify the Muslim because they keep their values, they keep their culture. Most of them speak their language, no matter where they are. No, they could be in Canada, they could be in America, anywhere, but they keep their identity. They keep their religion, they keep their language, they keep their dress style, but it's different from that of the South. The Southern modern day parents don't even want their own mothers to have anything to do with their grandchildren because they don't want you to shout at them. They are so precious that they cannot be shouted at. When God himself was able to discipline Jesus Christ, his son, so who are we not to discipline our children? So there's a lot of controversy around.
Like you said, there's a lot of controversy.
There's a lot of, and this topic is a very, very challenging one. Very challenging.
In my course of parenting and having to coach and mentor or have even sessions with parents, one of the things a lot of them deal with is the fact that they were brought up in a particular way that has affected them negatively, and they don't want such, you know, influence or such attributes to be passed on to their children. So, like you said, they guide and protect. So, how do you expect such a person to now say, okay, my mom or my dad brought me up, you know, whether you like it or not, but the shouting and all those stuff you mentioned, we are wired differently. So, some people really had to deal with childhood trauma in their parenting. So how do you want a parent who has such experience go round and have their grandparents come into the lives of the grandchildren?
Muti, I told you this topic is very, very controversial, very challenging. But let me say this to you. Isaac Newton, if you look into Isaac Newton's laws of motion, one of them says a body at rest will remain at rest until a force acts on it. Do you think one grandparent will just be so crazy and start shouting at his or her daughter or son? Is he crazy? Something happened. Action and reaction are equal and opposite. Isaac Newton speaking again. You see, if you don't do something naughty, why will anybody want to shout at you? Anyway, Muti, I'm a teacher, and I believe in rewards and punishments. When a child does something wrong, you should let the child know. The style you use will matter, right? But in most cases, we cannot avoid shouting, especially when we have corrected you 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 times. You are refusing to go out of the habit. We have to shout. And in some cases, you have to take a little smack.
Yeah, well,
I don't believe in extreme.
Some go beyond little spark.
The percentage is very minimal. You said something that you are wired differently. I don't know who wired you, because it's the same God that created all of us. And when he created us, he gave us the capacity to endure so many things. Like I tell people, death is so final. You lose your loved ones. You can still stay with it. You are not wired to forget them. And that is the thing that hurts most in our lives. A woman will profess her love to you. She loves you so much. But when you die, she doesn't agree to go into the grave with you. She stays alive and falls in love with another person. So how wired are you so specifically that if you do something naughty, your parents cannot correct you because you are wired differently? Define this wiring for me. I need to know it. It must be a special wire. The truth is that you have imported so many terminologies from the Western world that don't exist in our African culture. I am bored. What's boring you? There's work in the house to do. If you are bored, take a book and read. If you are bored, go to the farm and do some gardening. But you are bored. These are not our terminologies. These are borrowed terminologies. Just like this, your wired terminology.
I just imagine what's happening in your sitting room right now. Everyone will be busting up, in excitement and in laughter. But honestly, I think we'll take a short break. Let's go through this whole bomb blast that Grandma has put in front of us this morning. Anyway, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be looking at how grandparents can help to preserve culture, tradition, and what means they can use to do that. Please don't go away. I'll be right back.
You want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose, you want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. But we are stuck to accept you, take my hand and know me better. Hey, know me better, love me better. Hey, take me better, love me better. It's the transformational parenting show with Mute.
All right, welcome back. It's the Transformational Parenting Show with Mute Olori, and my guest, Pastor.REGINA, OMO-AGEGE, has really been giving it to us hot, hot, hot. And I'm sure that some of us are giving thumbs up to Mama, and some of us are still, having our own, sticking to some of the things we think it is. But at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, we have come to establish the fact that grandparents have a huge role to play and, of course, influence on the grandchildren. One of the things we've observed that this lack of connection or availability of grandparents in the life of children is the preservation of culture and tradition. Growing up, some of the things that stuck with me till now are some of the story times, my grandparents were able to use as a means of correction, value adding, or preservation of the culture. Maybe you want to throw a little bit more light on that for us.
Okay, you just remembered the times you had with your grandparents. I'm sure they were quite exciting. And I think I know I have a little background about your parents. I know they went to school, they're educated, they know things, right? And they chose to stick with their culture. So these days, most of our parents see us as old school, see us as parents who didn't go to school. But some of us are well read too. Some of us have doctoral degrees. I'm a doctor. So I don't know what my children want to tell me about going to school or not going to school. So I have it more than they do have it, because I belong to a very peculiar generation where we respected our parents, we listened to them, we don't talk back at them. We tell them how we feel in a very gentle manner, like we're instructed in the scriptures. Even if you're talking to other elders, we belong to a generation where we are brought up by the community. So we have it all. We have the values. We have everything. And we are ready to give it to our children, especially our grandchildren. Most of them are Gen Zs, and most of our parents are millennial children. So there is a crisis between the millennial and the Gen Zs. In fact, we don't know who is better amongst them. But the parents, being the ones that have the values, should be allowed to have some time with their grandchildren to impart them useful values as it relates to their culture and their religion. I mean, we cannot just be going to church and not imbibing good values. Children of those generation even misinterpret the Bible upside down. And most pastors are not helping, because they are taking to their bidding. They are preaching to them what they want to hear. So it is difficult, but I'm a very happy grandparent, because my grandchildren are very loving. They're my friends. They listen to me. And so far, no crisis, and I don't pray for any crisis.
So how do you pass the history of where you're coming from? Because, you know, it's a problem. One, some can't speak the language anymore, but like you said, it's still the fault of parents
Of
not
course it's their
connecting
fault.
back to their roots.
Yes.
So how do you pass these messages? You know, you preserve your culture, preserve the tradition. How do you do that with the grandchildren? What means do you use?
You keep talking to them. You keep displaying your tradition. Like, I know you're an Orobo girl, but I don't know how often you tie wrapper. Some of them will tell you directly they cannot tie wrapper. But I will say you have to tie the wrapper, because you are going for a traditional occasion. Just tie. You don't do it every day. With that, they tie it. They come out beautiful, and they come to treasure their culture. And let me tell you something. In those days, when our generations went to England to read, most of them went to England to read, they sent their children back home to school and to learn the language. But nobody does it these days. They will tell you they have gone on. Is it Japa they call it? They sell their belongings and take their children away. They don't even want to return. And in those days, because of the way we cherish our culture, most of them, when they go abroad and they die, they insist they should be brought back home. But today, the craze is that, bury me anywhere I die.
But there must be reasons why these things are happening.
It's just a crazy reason. It's just a crazy reason. You see, there are so many crazy things happening in the world today. How do you justify them? So many crazy things are happening. How do you justify a child not wanting to see the mother or the father? Just because the father slapped him once for some naughty things that he did. How do you the world is getting crazy. Let me go religious now. Something very important is happening in the world. And I think everybody knows it. They are in denial. There's a serious crisis going on between God and the devil. So the devil is busy pumping negative ideas into people. And because most of the things the devil is pumping into them is what they really want, they are buying into it. Everything God says in the Bible is wrong. Satan will tell you it is right. And people, by their nature, are very disobedient, especially some of our generational children. So most of them are opting to go with the devil, We are praying that they should come back. We are praying they should come back. You just talked about history. If you give good history to your grandchildren, they won't forget. That's how some of them can trace their roots. By the way, some of these grandchildren, they are very good, well exposed, they read, they like the behaviors of their grandparents. Some of them want to be like them. Some grandparents are models to their grandchildren and they want to be like them. So it's not all lost. It's just that the generations are difficult to handle.
Listening to you, I'm sure there are some who are really in this tough situation and they're really hoping, just like you said, you have fantastic relationship with your grandchildren.
Oh, I do.
They're hoping that they will still have the same. Where can they start from so that they can have access to their grandchildren? They're able to tell them stories. They're able to pass on these values. They're able to, because a child who has learned from grandparents seems to be wiser than a child who, you know, just learned from books.
Peer influence is very, very strong. It's stronger than religious influence. It's stronger than parental influence. That is why you have a child behaving well at home. When he or she gets to school, has another behavior because he wants to conform to his peers for fears of rejection. So we do this thing with some wisdom. The grandparents will go closer to the grandchildren, even when the parents are refusing. No grandchild will want to go away from a grandmother who is loving. So you have to be loving to them. Spoil them a little within reasonable limits. Talk about their culture to them.
Do you want them to go above, do you advise the grandparents go above the parents to get to the grandchildren? Or they should, I don't know, they should, because...
If you ask me,
yes,
I won't go through my children to get to my grandparents. No, because I really don't need them. They are my grandchildren. Unless you expressly tell me, and I'm here to see any of my children that will boldly come and tell me, I don't want you to have anything to do with my child. They're my grandchildren. So any moment I have with them, I impact what I want to impact. I don't, maybe when they go back to their parents, or grandmother said this, they can say, don't do it, but I will do what I need to do.
You know, growing up, I remember vividly where I hear in a group of prayer groups, I hear some women pray things, Lord, let my children remember me. Let my, you know, how can grandparents, because you need to mend the relationship. You see, if that difference is there, it also affects the child, because the child is saying that my parents don't have a good relationship with my grandparents, but I have a good relationship. That's sending a negative message.
No, but you see, the only time and the only good reason where your children can remember you is when they have a good relationship with their grandparents. Because their grandparents will always teach them to respect their parents. Right? No grandchild, or else it's mental anyway, will teach a grandchild to disrespect their parents. And Mute, you need to know that my grandchild is my grandchild. She has her parents. Maybe I don't live with them. So are you not saying that if by chance they come on holidays, I should seek the permission of my children to relate with them? No. You just go ahead and relate. You just go ahead and, it's like you staying around your neighbors. They watch you, they see the things you do. They will be the ones to testify about you if anything happens to you. That's how you should be with your grandchildren. Anytime they are around you, make sure you are impacting one good knowledge or the other to them. It doesn't leave their memory, especially when you don't specifically sit them down to say, this is what you should do. They are seeing you doing this thing now. I mean, you can just be telling a story, not targeting anybody. They are hearing you. They learn very fast. They are telling a story. Is good for children to respect their parents. It's good for them to respect their grandparents. It's good for them to respect anybody who is elderly. And then their mother is not telling them, or their father is saying, don't go near that place. Yeah, but I heard grandma say that we should respect people that are, they will tell you back, you know, they are very smart. And they read, they have access to the internet more than you. Unless they go to bad sites, they will see good things on the internet, and it will synchronize with what grandma is. And remember too that there are some of us who are internet compliant, and not,
Of course.
not all of us are not
Of
all of us
course,
are
so
serious old
at
school.
least you can go navigate around the internet to also get across
And
to,
of course,
to
if
the
you don't value
grandchildren.
your own child, it is something wrong. No matter the bad behavior your children put to you, you shouldn't extend it to the grandparents, and you should not even let the grandchildren, sorry, and you should not even let the children know that there's a rift between you and them, unless and otherwise they decide to display it, and you have to try to mend it anyway.
Wow. I like the fact that, you know, we must find a way.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's what I'm learning today. You must find a way. And it is an intergenerational thing. If you don't pass it well, the other generation will not have what to pass on. And if we must have the preservation of our culture and the value, if we have value for our children and our own future, then we should know how to treat our parents well, so that our grandchildren will also treat us well. Thank you so much for spending this and sharing so much light on this, like you call it, a very interesting topic. Thank you so much. Well, that is our program for today. You've heard it. It's so important, you know, that we allow, as parents, allow the children to enjoy what we call transgenerational wisdom. And it is the only way we can preserve our cultures and our values and give the children and ourselves an
Take my
identity.
hand and know me better. I know you love me. That's so comforting. Won't choose you want me. Take my hand and know me better. I know you love me. That's so comforting. But we are stuck to accept you. Take my hand and know me better. Hey, know me better, love me better. Hey, treat me better, love me better. It's the transformational parenting show with Olori.